Hello, welcome to the mandala demo for Photoshop. So there's a Photoshop and going to be an Illustrator one. They're both pretty heavy. So the thing with mandalas is you want everything is aligned correctly. So you need to give yourself some guides. So I have a new document. I set up to 8 by 8 inches. I have my rulers on, Command R if your rulers are not on. And I'm going to make a new layer. I want to be able to make sure I'm making a new layer for each one of these elements. But I'm going to keep my background white as is. So the first thing I'm going to do is draw some guides. Or I can do new guides. If I go to View, New Guide, and I have a horizontal and vertical one, both at 4 inches. So I'm going to give myself sort of like a crosshair just on my guides. And I am going to go to View, Lock Guides so I don't accidentally move them. I have a tendency to do that. So the next thing I'm going to do is lay my circles out. So I'm going to go to my elliptical marquee tool and kind of get my crosshair lined up. This is where having good eyesight is good. I'm going to hold down my Alt and Option and Shift, click, and drag. And I'm going to give myself a circle. I try to give it close to the edge. If not, it's no big deal. Then I'm going to actually do D to default my colors, right click, stroke. This is just going to give me an outline, like so. I'm going to do a Command D. I have my first line. It's on a new layer. What I'm going to do is copy it. I'm going to do a Command J. Command J is going to be your best friend, or Control J throughout this demo. So then we're going to do a Command T for free transform. And you know what? And it looks like it's in the dead set center. How do I know? Well, I'm looking at my control panel. These are your center points, and 1200 divided by 3 is 4, so it's 4 and it's 300 pixels for DPI, so it's at the center point. So hold down Alt or Option because it's going to constrain it to the center. Hold down Shift, and I'm just going to make it go up a little and just a little bit bigger. And just zoom in to make sure. Alright, good. I'm going to confirm that layer. So you have 2 layers. And they're just one's a little bit bigger. So I'm going to copy that first one, do a Command T, hold down, and you know what? I'm just going to type in a number with my horizontal and width, and do that. You're essentially going to follow this in. Eventually you're going to adjust that percentage. And so I might still probably keep it at 9. And these are just going to be just little guides to help you kind of measure things against each other. The percentage that you use may not be the same, but it's going to be the same. This to here is going to be the same, this to here over here. And you're essentially just going to kind of do this for a while. Well, yeah, just put down some lines. You're kind of making like a ruler, and you see they kind of get thinner going in. That's okay. Alright, so I have some guides here. What I'm going to do with my guides is anything that I have layer 1, layer copy, whatever, I'm just going to shift click the top and the bottom, and I'm going to do a Command E. This flattens everything. And I'm just going to rename. Well, in theory, I would just circles. Then I make a new layer, And where I got my circle marquee tool, I'm going to do my single row marquee tool. And I'm going to zoom in. I'm on a new layer. I'm not on circles. And this is 1 pixel wide. You're going to do one for above your guide and below your guide like this. So I'm just going to hold down G to get my paint bucket, fill, Command D to deselect. So it's going to be actually 2 pixels wide. I'm just do a Command T, and I'm just going to make this a little bit longer. Hold down Alt and Shift to kind of make it longer on both sides. And you'll see why we do this in a second. And confirm. We're going to do Command J, Command T, and so a circle is 360 degrees. And think about how many pie slices you want. So I'm going to do 22.5. Click check, Command J, and I'm just going to keep following this angle right here and making a bunch of lines. And it's just rotating out. And my last one. Alright, so what I'm going to do is shift click all those layer 1s, copy, Command E, lines. And what I'm going to do is shift click both of these and put them in a folder. And I'm just going to rename that folder guides. That way I know that they're always there and I won't mess with them. So now we have our guidelines. This is just how we're going to measure things up against each other. So then you're going to put in your assets. Now, what I've done is I've downloaded a bunch of images off the internet. And I needed to mask them out. So what I did is I masked them out quickly, and I just pull them into Photoshop real quick. Alright, so I'll just show you. So I just do a quick mask. Select and mask. Hopefully your Photoshop isn't mad at you like mine is mad at me. And kind of clean it up real quick. And I recommend kind of doing this before you start. Think about everything first, because then you don't have to do this in the middle of your project, and I'm just showing you this process. Alright. So I'm going to do is scroll down to Output to Layer Mask. And now everything's masked out. Now it has a lot of this empty space. I'm going to take my crop tool and just get rid of all this empty space that we don't need. Confirm. File, export as PNG. A PNG is a high quality image that can support transparency. It's going to be great because then this is just going to save you time. And as you can see, I have a lot of PNGs saved. You don't want to make your file larger with a whole bunch of PSDs or masked objects. Mask them first and then save them as PNGs. Now, it's kind of a destructive process, which I'm usually very against, but it's going to save you a lot of time. So I have all sorts of PNGs. I would have so much more to play with. But I'm going to have my Barbie doll, and I'm just going to click and drag on. There you go. So it puts her in a free transform, and I'm just going to arrange her where I want her. I'm looking at, she's at axis 4 inches. Alright. So I'm going to click confirm, and she's in her first spot. How do I get her to rotate around? So do a Command J to copy and a Control T. The first thing I'm going to do is set this center point to the center point, because if we rotate it now, it just rotates as the center. So you're going to click and just drag this outside of the box. And to get it concise, you're going to go up to your control panel. For that X, do 4 inches, Y. Alright, so then that center point is there. And so if these are at 22, I might going to do this at 45. And then I can do this again. Now you may want to work on one quadrant at a time and work that way. But I don't know. I feel like I want to I don't want to put it all there. I want to see how everything looks as a whole before I would do that. And it's going to take quite a bit of math, but it'll be fine. Control J, Control T. So this can get kind of tedious, and you may dislike that, but I think it's a nice process. And by the end of this mandala, you will be quite the expert. 145 plus, wait, 45 plus 180 is 225? 235. Ooh, math is hard. Let's do negative 45. And I'll do one more that I know you're like, why is this video so long? I'm going to show you about reflection, because that will be quite nice. Okay, so I have my Barbies here and just put it in a group. I keep going to put things in groups to make sense. You're going to get a lot of layers. It's going to get very confusing. And if you hide your guides, you can see where everything's looking so far. So I'm going to put my guides back down and alright, so I have this new shoe that we put in. Click and drag. So it's way big. Scale it down to where I need it to be. Okay, so I like it there. So I want it to reflect on the other side of Barbie here. So I'm going to do a Command J. And flip horizontal. Now this still not quite where I want it. So I'm pulling down guides. And some of this may just have to be a little visual. Delete that. So copy, Command T, pull it out. See where this goes. Now it's not going to be quite exact. That's why using your little measurements is really going to help. And it's still not quite that angle I like. So I'm just placing some guides down so I can measure these things against each other. Let's look at that first one. So it's Y is there. So I'm trying to use the preset guides given to me. So now it's at the same height. And I'm just trying to measure things out from each other. Alright, so they seem about the same there. And what I would do is highlight both. I flattened those two layers together with a Command E, Command J, Command T, and you kind of go on and go forth. Now, using these lines, maybe you find yourself that you need more lines to get those more accurate measurements, and I definitely encourage that. Play around, make sure everything is on a separate layer. I can't emphasize that enough. And this is going to be a large file once you have all these little elements in. Save often, because Photoshop will crash on you. And I can't wait to see your mandalas.